NIDA from January 2017 shows that raw marijuana and THC has been shown to prime the brain for enhanced responses to other drugs, and is also associated with worsening the use of legal substances, including the probability of developing an alcohol disorder. And to some, this may sound extreme, but this, again, is not the marijuana of yesteryear. This is having more effects on our health and on our bodies than it has ever done, even within the last 20 years. But to say that raw marijuana is not addictive and that there is nothing wrong with it is a major over-exaggeration. I bring all this to point out that this is not just a natural, harmless plant that has no side effects and will not hurt anything. This has potential to hurt our community, especially our youth, if it's commercialized more in our little town. We need to ask, what do we want our community to be like? Are we sure that this is it? We need to ask, do we want something else out there that is going to encourage our youth to be a part of what is going to harm them? We want what is best for our students, and this is going to prime them for something else. The more prevalent a drug, the more instances we'll have of unintended consequences of use. And that is what these new acts will do. We need to ask, are we 100% sure about this? I have no other motives behind it, because the bottom line to remember with all of this is that we already have medical marijuana in a form of medical marijuana cards and growers. And that's not going away, no matter what. And again, that was said. Plus, we have the prescription drugs that are available with extracts of marijuana. So that's not needed to be smoked or needed to be ate. Why do we need more? Other than the fact that there are people that do want to make money off of it, or that do want it more visible in our community, which will then make it more acceptable to our youth, and not really truly help those who need its medical benefits. And also, this is not about the money we can make. Because if something isn't right for our community, then it doesn't matter how much money we might take in. Plus, if this is good, then why do we need to give money to increase law enforcement, or to even prevention, for that matter? There's not a state that revenue has been above any of the sin tax costs. In our state, both alcohol and tobacco cost our state money every year. So don't make this about money. Make this about our community. So the question is, are we sure this is what we want our community to be about? Thank you.
Mr. Clem, right here.
Up front.
You had a slide up there that showed cannabinoid receptors in the brain.
Oh, yes.
Our body, when we're born, we have cannabinoid receptors.
That's right.
Now, where's the first time that we received cannabinoids from our mother's breast milk? I just, it's true.
So, but that doesn't mean that later in life it doesn't affect your brain in a negative way, right?
We're born with cannabinoid receptors in our bodies.
That's right, and these interrupt those cannabinoid receptors. So,
Is there any other substances that contain cannabinoid? Does anybody know?
No,
No?
only two things on the planet, breast milk and marijuana, that the body responds to. Our cannabinoid receptors are those two items only. It's breast milk from a mother and marijuana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we doing public comment?
No, we're going to do, first we have village manager reports, and then we're going to have public comment after council
Well,
comment.
we did say we would do it during the presentation.
Well, you want to do it right? Yeah, we can do public comment on it
It's
right now.
council's
We'll
choice.
just move it up. That'd be fine.
Hi, my name is Ann Cisco. I am also from Cannabis Council, and I just had a couple of brief remarks. First, why would we want to opt into the state system? Well, because it's safer. Where are our kids, or people that have cards, where are they getting their marijuana? It's not from the caregivers, there's not enough caregivers. They're going to illegal dispensaries. And what are the illegal dispensaries selling? We don't know. But under this act, the safety of marijuana is being tested in charge of by LARA. They are to establish quality control standards, procedures, requirements for marijuana facilities. One especially nice one here is establish maximum THC levels for marijuana-infused products. Establish health standards to ensure safe preparation of products with marijuana. And there's a list of things that they have to comply with. We don't have any of that now. Your caregivers, what do we know what they do with it? Do they take it to a lab and is it safe? I don't know. And the provision centers, we don't know what's going on there. So we really do need a system that will deliver a safe product to people that need it. And again, I would also caution you, I've done quite a bit of research on all this, and you come to conflicting conclusions sometimes, but what you need to do is look at the source of the data. Is it from the alcohol industry? Is it from the insurance industry? Maybe you don't trust them. Is it from a accredited university? Has it been peer reviewed? What is the methodology? What is the study, what's the control group? Things like that, because there are all kinds of things saying all kinds of things on blogs. And that is not to be relied on. You should look at high quality research. One last thing I wanted to point out that my partner did not get to is that, and we could present a handout on this, is that marijuana is now being used to get people off of opioids. And that is a wonderful thing. And I could present an article on that. I believe a young woman came, Adrian
Yes, Adrian Grant.
Grant, and she handed out these little pamphlets. And within that pamphlet, there's an article by a doctor that describes the opioid, how you get off of that. And if anyone wants it, I have had worked with the law clerk to get the studies that were cited there. So if you're interested in more of it, just contact our law firm, I can get it out to you.
I will.
Okay. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to do public comment. Please remember, it's limited to 4 minutes, and state your name and address. If you need additional time, let us know, and we can take a vote on it.
Okay, my name is Celeste Messens. I reside at 119 North Fourth Street in Holly. I'm a little nervous since I've never done this. Kind of bear with me.
We don't fight.
But I'm one of the small select individuals in this town who is against bringing the marijuana industry to Holly. It has the potential to bring about many unintended yet very predictable consequences. These consequences may include, but they are not limited to, public safety and social problems. And I'd like to touch on a few. You cannot prove or disprove with empirical evidence that the marijuana industry causes increasing crime rates. However, studies do encourage us to make an educated conclusion that the marijuana industry and dispensaries will draw more attention and diversity to our relatively small town, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. We want more people to come here, and we want them to call Holly home. But at the same time, we may draw in more than what we bargained for. People of different social and economic backgrounds will flock here, inevitably increasing Holly's traffic, and likewise potentially changing our values. Again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying it can be. Our high traffic areas are more prone to criminal opportunity. We can see this in larger cities, and larger cities start small. Do we want our town to potentially foster a habitat for crime? Some studies do show that marijuana inhibits aggressive behavior and violence. This is true. But on the other hand, other studies conclude that the long-term use of marijuana may alter the nervous system in such a way that actually promotes violence. That's a scary thought. And I feel Amsterdam, if you look at it, is a pretty great example of this. And that's taking it further than Colorado and taking it further back. Although law enforcement in medical marijuana states have not necessarily seen an increase in violent crimes, increases in crimes towards medical marijuana users have been reported. Medical marijuana users often report being stalked, walking out of dispensaries, and even being mugged while walking to their cars or their homes. While many medical users report these crimes to the police, many more are believed to go unreported because of that awkward relationship between marijuana users and local police departments. Other crimes can include the theft of marijuana plants from where they're grown, causing our housing prices near growers and marijuana facilities to decrease. Federal banking restrictions for the marijuana industry create cash-only businesses, creating a magnet for criminal activity, such as burglaries and robberies, amongst other crimes. This becomes a regulatory and enforcement issue. Cash-only businesses also pose unique challenges to the investigational side of law enforcement. There is no paper trail to determine cash flow. All cash businesses can potentially be used for money laundering activities, making illegal drug activities that much more difficult to prosecute. Like it or not, marijuana use is also associated with cognitive difficulties and negatively influences concentration, attention, and our short-term memory, which can affect the employment industry as it affects the user's ability to work as well as their ambitions and inhibitions, which significantly correlates into the lives of our youth. Most people assume the marijuana industry and dispensaries present very little, if any, challenges for youth everywhere. But if you remove the moral objection of marijuana, if you normalize marijuana use, more youth will likely use the drug, possibly without the realization that they are indeed harming their own potential. Students who use marijuana underperform in comparisons to non-users. Studies everywhere show this. It's no secret either that too many youth dabble with drugs and alcohol when they're young. Why make that potential that much more easier for them to get it? And I'm up here and I'm young. How do we combat any of these potential problems to lessen the potential crime of the marijuana industry and what it brings? A functioning, not an adequate crime model has to be reached. Doing nothing is not a viable option. Increasing our police protection seems like the most simple and realistic solution, doesn't it? But this is also a very expensive solution, so is it possible? Police officers already face countless demands on the daily, ones we wouldn't even think of. So would adding in another task pave the way for other more important tasks to be left unaddressed?
You're at your time.
May I? I'm
You
almost
have to-
finished.
Okay.
May I add like one more paragraph? I urge everyone to view the welcoming of the marijuana industry to Holly from all angles of the spectrum, to carefully outweigh the pros and the cons before coming to any conclusions. Because even the mere potential to implement an intricate regulatory model for this matter is clearly not an easy task for anyone.
Thank you, Peter. Do we have any other further comments?
Thank you.
I know there's others like to speak. This gentleman's right, he's already making his way. Please give us your name and address.
My name's Sean Grigel. I reside at 120 North Corbin. I've been in the village for about a week, but I've been in Holly all my life. Okay. So I'm sitting there, I'm listening to all the presenters here, and I'm hearing, you know, big numbers, $800 million. I'm hearing it's going to go into a pool of 25%, this, that, and the other. Money's great. This village, we need money. I mean, we can see by looking at our businesses around here, dilapidated buildings and whatnot, we could use the funds. But let's face it, marijuana is taboo. There's a lot of people out there who look at it as a bad thing. And I don't know how many of you people know who I am, but I'm one of these social media guys. I'm constantly on my Facebook. I love Facebook, just like I'm sure everyone here loves their own Facebook. And when it comes down to it, it's an ongoing debate, and it will rage on and on and on. I'm watching people tell their presentations, and I'm watching people in front of me shaking their heads. No, that's not right. I'm watching people to the right of me shaking their heads. Yes, that's absolutely right. The one thing I'm not hearing is the word perception. If you go on social media and you look at the perception of Holly, you always see we got $3 stores, we have auto parts stores, we have bars. What is a marijuana dispensary going to do for our perception of our town? If we want potential revenue to come here, we need to eliminate the taboo and bring in the positive. Something that everyone can gather around. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Lisa, Lisa.
I can reach it. Thank you. Lisa Clark, 602 South Broad, Holly. As a resident, as a local antique dealer, as someone who cares about Holly very deeply, I would like to ask the board, please, think very hard about this. I don't want to see a marijuana dispensary in Holly. He's right, perception is a big part of it. We've worked very hard to make Holly attractive for people to want to come and live here, shop here, open a business here. I don't see how marijuana dispensaries are going to enhance that perception in the least. And I know there have been a lot of good presentations here tonight. Mr. Klimt, thank you, yours was wonderful. But I really wish council would think long and hard about this. Once we do it, we can't undo it. And I don't want Holly to be seen as the place where you can go score some weed. I want it to be a Discover the Charm Village and a place where families can come and people can shop and can go to our parks and they can feel safe. And there's absolutely no worrying about crime or what the marijuana dispensaries could bring. And this is just speaking from the heart. I don't have any notes, but please, please vote against it. We have a lovely place to live and work. Let's keep it that way. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Yes, sir.
Hello, how you doing? My name is Joe Bino, 15231 North Holly Road. I actually own the HCR Garden Supply, the hydro store here in town. And I've been here for quite a while, enough to be able to expand 3 times in your city here. And this was based probably on a good percent that I've had business come from, anywhere from Grand Rapids, Saginaw, down to Toledo, to come to our town here to be able to do business here in our town based upon what we offer, how we sell our products, and the way we go about doing business. We went from your town being a 2,000 square foot store to now being a 10,000 square foot store. We've also employed many people here from this area here. On average, I have 5 to 6 people that would work here from a local, area. Everybody here based between Fenton or Holly. That's where they're based out of for employment. I have seen many things happen. I've seen many people come inside of our business asking for a dispensary, asking if we know where to get marijuana from. Answer's always been the same. No, most likely you'd have to go to Flint. So we're pushing people away to go to Flint to get it illegally, to be able to go to a crime-full city. I do think you guys would want to consider to possibly bring these businesses here for the sake of it is already bringing business here to the city, not bad business. I don't think I've ever called a cop in here for any type of break-in, any type of problems in our store. We've had a couple shoplifting situations, but I think it's the lightest thing that's ever happened in the 8, 9 years that I've been here in this town doing this business. We've actually had a very minimal amount of children walk into our stores inquiring what the heck we were. Didn't care less what we were, didn't want to know. We've actually worked with the kids enough and presented to them to show them that with the garden that we've had for the last 5 years, growing in the back of our store, which is our vegetables and fruit that we donate throughout the whole city, we get help from the kids. And it doesn't interact with the other customers that are walking in who are actually there to grow cannabis and what have you. Yes, we do have a great majority of customers that come there for that purpose. Let's be real. That's the nature of the business of what we do. But at the end of the day, it has not caused conflict. We were voted in here amongst a lot of the group here years ago to have a dispensary, which went a little sour here because of the way the situation went down. But you're now regulated through a state, and with the regulation comes a punishment for doing wrong. Where standing today, there is no punishment in doing wrong except for what you do inside your home if you're above your numbers. I have been friends with a lot of the police department officers here in town. We've had conversations back and forth. Their take is, if somebody's not doing something wrong, we're not here to bother them. So again, if a business is here, if they're doing something right, why bother them? They're here to do just, bring business, bring jobs, and do something that is already just somewhat inevitable throughout the state to be done, whether it's our city or the next city. So my point is, there is some benefit to it, but yes, there is some repercussions, there is some things that can go wrong, but again, that's like in anything. The guy who opens up a tobacco store, the gas station, selling a pack of cigarettes to somebody, they're gonna get punished for it. That's the point of it. There is now a system in play, and that system is what we're gonna be following if this does pass through here in Holly. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Name's Gail Carpenter, 127 Park Avenue. And I don't know a whole lot about this. In fact, the last time the council had a discussion on this, I learned quite a bit. And I realized how much I didn't know. But in listening to the conversation, a couple of things jump out at me. One is this idea that it's coming whether you like it or not. So you better get ready for it. Well, maybe it is. But why, and they keep calling it medical marijuana. So why is it going out of the medical regulatory system? Why isn't it dispensed through pharmacies? Why does it have to be other than what's already established and regulated? I don't understand that at all. As far as all these studies that go on, and the one lady referred to, personally, any study that's commissioned by the government, I have serious doubts about it. Because as far as I'm concerned, they're all bought and paid for. Same way with pharmaceutical companies and whatever company that's interested in making money. And there again, on the subject of money, money is nice, but money doesn't solve all your problems. I mean, you can make a lot of money, but in the process of making that money, you can also create a lot of problems that's going to make you spend a lot of that money. So that's just from the regular guy's point of view, just from sitting here. Everything I know I learned from right here, except for when I was in high school. We won't go into that.
You didn't help? Thanks. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Christine Alvarado, 17088 Fish Lake Road. And I would like to say that it always kind of, in 2008, I myself did vote for the Medical Marijuana Act. I thought it, like any other medicine, it was going to be controlled by the federal government. I thought the doctors were going to write a prescription. I would go to the pharmacy and get my prescription there. And that's not the case, and that's what scares me. Because when I found out that this cannabis was going to be by growers and then you go, you just dry it and give it to somebody, you're right, you don't know what the concentration of the THC and the CBD is in it and all this other kind of stuff. And I thought, oh my goodness, isn't that scary? So I thought I'd try to learn a little bit more. So I attended a meeting of the Alliance of Community Coalitions for Healthy Communities. And I was there to hear Dr. Seifa, who wrote a book called Clear the Smoke. And his whole book is about, scientifically, let's look at cannabis, look at some diseases, let's look at the ingredients in cannabis and see how it can be used medically to help people. Well, lo and behold, before his presentation started, up drives this big white limousine, and out came 4, 5, maybe 6 people, very well dressed. And I said to the person I'm with, I said, who's that? Well, that's the marijuana delegation. I said, oh my, if they're really making a presence. And they said, yes, they're here to let us know that they're here to stay, and they have a lot of money, and they want a lot, and to make a lot more money. And what I hear today about these dispensaries and all this money, I am against having a dispensary here in Holly for 2 reasons. First of all, there's not enough scientific research. We need to have more research, and I believe any medicine needs to be researched scientifically, carried out, have seminars for doctors, and have it be better. Not dispensary. Why dispensaries? Why isn't it going through the federal government? What's the American Medical Association's position on it? I don't want a dispensary here. Just because something's legal doesn't make it good for our community. And I have to say one last thing. When I heard the gentleman say that marijuana is not a gateway drug, I would have to beg to differ. I'm wondering how many of you in this room have talked to anybody in our recovering community? Are you aware that there is Monday and Sunday AA meetings that meet in Presbyterian Church? And what about the River Church and also at the Holly Methodist Church? And you ask any person who's doing good recovery, and you ask them what happened, what are some of the things, you ask them what they think about marijuana. Or somebody that says, oh yeah, I've given up alcohol, but now I just smoke marijuana. They would get taken aside in a meeting and given a good talking to. Because ladies and gentlemen, a drug is a drug is a drug. And marijuana has the potential to be addictive and to cause lots of problems, not just with the marijuana use, but what it leads to. And I concur with Mr. Clem. We have to protect our youth. Just because something's legal doesn't make it good for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hey, everybody. Hello. Jesse Torres, 708 Marianne. I came tonight to kind of deter the negative stigma that comes with smoking weed. I don't do drugs, I smoke weed. I'm a recreational user, I'm also a medicinal user. I also represent the youth community. And where to start? Gateway drug, best friend, smokes weed since junior year of high school. Valedictorian of Holly High, just graduated University of Michigan, mechanical engineering, just got a job working for Chrysler. Other friend, graduated Grand Valley State, top of this class, going to be a teacher, going to move to Colorado. So the teaching situation here is not so great. Other friend, just going for his master's from Grand Valley State, sociology. All recreational pot users. Cousins, both graduated in Florida, recreational pot users. None of them have touched cocaine, methamphetamines, heroin, prescription pills. None of them abuse alcohol. Not saying that not anybody can. People that are going to go for these heavier drugs are normally most of the time going to use them. I'm telling you, a lot of people use it responsibly. A lot of people use it medicinally. A lot of people are saying they don't want the dispensary in Holly. I get that more, but let's make sure this comes down to that there's 5 different facilities we can have. Testing facilities, secure transportation facilities, the dispensary provision centers, 3 different types of growers, and the processing facilities. All of these would bring in the money, correct? Having one of the facilities. So let's not just boil this down to dispensary or no dispensary. There's 5 different options for us. For people that say it's not coming or that, I mean, it is coming, the Michigan to regulate marijuana like alcohol just announced that they hit 100,000 signatures. They need 252,000 signatures in the next 5 months. If they hit that, we will vote on it November 2018. That'll bring it into legal use by 2019. We would join Washington, Oregon, Nevada, California, Massachusetts, Maine, Colorado, Washington, D.C., and Alaska as legal states. Everyone just wants to always talk about Colorado, but let's remember there's about 8, 9 now. Canada is legalizing marijuana July 1st next year. We're Canada's neighbor. We're going to lose a lot of business to that. Ohio and Arizona will probably also be voting 2018 to legalize marijuana. So the wave is coming. Let's catch it while we can, you know. Like he said earlier, all the other communities around us, a lot of them have voted no on this. They're just catching the back burners before we hit legalization in 2018. Let's catch on to the medical benefits earlier for our community, for people that live around here. I have my med card. It's a pain to have to drive to Davison. It's a smaller town community. Let's not always associate dispensaries with Flint, Ann Arbor, Detroit. Davison has 2 going on 3 dispensaries now. Very high quality, very nice people that work there. I've been to dispensaries in Flint, Davison, Ann Arbor, Detroit, Grand Rapids, Lansing. Very safe. They check your ID at the door. If you don't have a card, they don't let you in. Let's get rid of this. You know, I'm a bartender. No way I would never serve alcohol to somebody under 21, not even my best friends. Why? That's my job. That's our business's liquor license, which is very, very expensive. People that own the Holly Party Shop, they're not serving to minors. I can tell you, I grew up here as a minor. They're not selling to minors. It's a pain to try and get booze when you're in high school. It's a lot easier to get weed when you're in high school. From 15, 16, you know, it's very, very easy to get weed. Booze was always a bit of a problem, much harder, because it's much more regulated. People don't want to buy you booze. These are just, you know, I'm bringing this to all of you. This is direct youth perspective. I've grown up in this community my whole life. I smoke weed every single day. That's all I have. If anyone has questions, I'm more than happy to always talk about it. If anyone doesn't know anything about, you know, THC percentage, CBD percentage, talking about how, you know, medicinal users, it's not healthy to smoke. We all know that, yes. You can get a vaporizer, you can get edibles, you can get oils, you can get lotions, you can get ointments, you know, for knee surgeries. I know people have had 4 knee surgeries. They use CBD lotion on their knee and it helps wonders.
You're at time, Jesse.
Okay, that's all I had tonight. Thank you much.
Thank you. Do you have any others? Joe, right behind you. She was already in the room.
Let me go next. My name's Susan Capel. I'm 12021 North Holly Road. I'm a co-director with Nick Plump of the Holly Area Community Coalition. I've been doing that for 17 years. I'm also a certified prevention specialist. And I want to back everything that Nick said. His research is very, everything is commendable. It's very frustrating to listen after being in this community for 20 years and listening to some of the things as far as it just being a business or it just being a planning and zoning issue. It's way more personal than that. I've worked and taught after-school classes and worked with thousands of our youth here in Holly over all of these years, done drug education, character building, trying to empower kids to make good decisions. And it just seems very difficult with an addition of this type of thing in our community. It was hard really to see the medical marijuana come in, but I see the benefit and I would never take that away from people who need that. For those who want to use it recreationally, that's their choice. It's sad to me that youth would use it because of the ramifications on their brain until they're 25. So anything up to that would be very difficult. But are we sure that we want to see this in our community? Is this what we want our community to look like? Is this what we want our storefronts to look like? Is that going to be something that's going to, I really liked what you said, Lisa, in regards to our Plain community. Is this what's going to encourage people to come to Holly? Is this what's going to encourage a family to say, I want to move to Holly? They're not going to want to expose their children. I raised my 3 children here, all through Holly schools, and like I said, I've had so much exposure to so many children, and it's not what I would like to see for our youth here in Holly, and that's my biggest concern. And because there are risks, and it's been proven over and over that there are risks of especially the high levels now, so much different than years ago. And I would hope that we want to really be sure that that's how we want our community to look like, and especially for our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Michelin, you were on your way up before, so.
Is it safe?
That's debatable.
I have to say that I'm dazzled.
Name and address, Mr. Michelin.
Well, I'm dazzled Joe Michelin. I live on a dazzling street called 620 Academy Road.
There we go, thank you.
There you go. And I'm still dazzled. I was impressed by some of these speakers. My goodness. Really, I am. I came here, I wasn't sure what to expect. But I heard all these people speak. Wow. Cool. But I got some questions. This young gentleman back here that just talked and said, I represent the youth of Holly. That's a really bold statement. You represent all those youth? You just represent a few? That would be a good question. I'm kind of curious, I don't know which one of these fine speakers said this, and I don't mean that derogatorily. Somebody said that you could have as many as 100 caregivers. You could have as many as you wanted. What does that mean? I mean, you're going to regulate them by what? We can have 5. We can have 5 caregivers, we can have 2 dispensaries, we can have, now I learned there's 5 different kinds of dispensaries. How does that work? How are you gonna regulate this? And the other problem I have is the perception. I lived through the 60s. And I lived through the 70s, and I don't give a crap what any of these people who like about cannabis have to say. I watched a lot of kids at Holly High School get destroyed by drugs. And I watched a lot of soldiers get destroyed by marijuana and other kinds of drugs. So I experienced that. And I don't say these things lightly. I could give you a litany of Holly kids who never lived to be in their old age because of marijuana, because of other drugs, and all of that kind of stuff. So it is really about perception, because out of the 60s, everybody said, ooh, marijuana is really cool. We seem to be stuck with that perception. I don't know who started it, but we're stuck with it. We're stuck with a perception. And now, we're about to lay another perception on our community. We're about to lay the perception of, hey, let's not call it Holly anymore, let's call it Drug Town. I know you disagree with me. That's great. That's the beauty of America. But let's be realistic. It's the perception. It's not about how well things are going to be regulated. It's the perception. It's what people are going to think. What are real estate people going to tell people? Oh yeah, guess what Holly's got? We went through that bad reputation for about 30 or 40 years. Some of you should remember that. I'm against this. I'm not against it. I'm not against medical marijuana. I got all that. I understand. I'm against it in our community because I don't believe it's what we want. I don't believe for 1 second that it's in the best welfare of the people of this community. And I don't believe for 1 second that we pass this, we're doing a good thing for our community. And the money's irrelevant. Actually, the money's not irrelevant because when he said $800 million, I'm thinking, wow, there's some potential for a lot of crazy things to happen. $800 million, and that figure is only going to grow. It could be $1 billion, it could be $1.5 billion. It's going to grow. Imagine the potential, because somebody's going to look at that money and go, all right, we want a corner of that. And I'm not talking about the really good businessmen. I'm talking about other kinds of people. I mean, I think that's a given. So I'm against this.
What do you do? Mr. Young Lady.
Emily St. Paul, 2114 East Bristol Road. I don't live in Holly, but I am a graduate of Holly High. And my family lives here. I go to church here. I'm a board member for the Holly Community Coalition, and I also work for the Holly Community Coalition. I just need to say that I agree with Nick Hunt, not only because he's a prevention specialist, or because he's a lifetime citizen of Holly, but because he's a father to 2 girls here. And because he's a father figure to so many other youth in this community. As he was speaking and delivering all the facts, you could hear in his voice the passion that he has for the youth here. And I think it's that passion that we need to listen to and ask these people who have a real solid stake and involvement in our youth, are we sure that this is what we want for our community? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody. My name is George Brico. I'm the president of Evergreen Management, and I would just like to clear the air. There's pros and cons that we've been hearing about marijuana. I would like to clear the air based on what I've been hearing and what I think is right based on what my instincts tell me. I've heard community members, their issue is crime in the cash business that this industry is going to bring in, the crimes with money, the cash. Under these new bills that just passed, there's a seed-to-sale tracking system in place. And with that seed-to-sale tracking system, from its inception of a seed or a clone all the way till harvest time, they will know the exact weight when it's wet, after it's dry. So if there's any deception going on, it would be addressed. For security purposes, the state of Michigan has hired 48 new MSP officers, so I'm not going to go in the direction of the jobs it created, but we have 48 new law enforcement officers. As far as the crime, people worry about the crime as far as people getting mugged. Most of these dispensaries that are existing today throughout the state of Michigan can afford to have 24-hour monitoring service. Many of them hire off-duty police officers to police that issue. So anybody that has the issue as far as worried about the crime it may bring, we see it in Detroit. Many of these dispensaries that have opened, crimes in those areas, the blight they've cleaned up. Not saying that Holly has areas that are issue with blight, but cities that were affected negatively are now being affected positively with these businesses existing. Also, the young lady mentioned something as far as we need more studies. Everybody, I agree, we do need more studies. Unfortunately, the federal government, it's illegal to have, consume or possess marijuana. That being said, they are not allowing colleges or research facilities to research the positive and negatives of it. So I agree with you 100%. We do need more studies, we do need more research, but unfortunately our hands are tied with the federal government. Also, we're sitting here addressing what the American citizen can consume. The 10th Amendment, it's unconstitutional for the government to police or tell me what I can or cannot consume. I weigh 300 pounds. Where's the government telling me I need to stop eating? My risk of heart disease is much higher than the person that weighs 100 pounds. Okay, and I know I'm running out of time. Give me a few seconds. And also, soldiers. Sir, I appreciate your service. Many of these people that I hear negative servicemen being destroyed by marijuana. I believe it's the unjust wars that they send them to that destroy our soldiers and our fellow brothers and sisters. So we need to get the stigma, the boogeyman out of marijuana. I remember Reefer Madness, when black people or Mexicans smoke marijuana, they rape white women. We all know that's not true. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any further comment? We have one couple before you. We'll
Yeah, everyone doing, my name is Devin Onkowski. I reside at 119 North Corbin Avenue. With everyone that spoke today about being against the dispensary, they're not against medical marijuana. Like this lady said, and this lady, and everybody that has been against it, they're against the perception of this town. I grew up in this town, I went to school in this town, I graduated from this town. I moved to the big city when I graduated from this town. When I went to college, everybody's like, oh, where are you from? I said, oh, I'm from Holly. They go, man, you're from that small town Holly. How'd you survive out there? I said, you know, I survived because I was in band in school, I was in my community in school, I did theater in school, I mean, I did everything. I was, you know, don't get me wrong, I did my fair share of partying, I've been there, pretty sure everybody's been in the partying stage, but the community in itself has built so hard to make the perception of this town great, with the Holly Car Show, with the businesses downtown booming. I mean, man, we got restaurants downtown, we got antique stores downtown, we got ice cream parlors downtown. You know, we're opening up another dollar store. You know, we don't need a medical dispensary in this town to revenue money. You want to revenue money, how about taking the old businesses that are torn down, falling apart, make them into something, make them into a farmer's market, make them into something. You know, I mean, this town doesn't need it. We're old school values, man, we're an old school town. That's the way we've been, that's the way we're gonna be. I mean, me and my girlfriend were raising an 11-year-old son in this town. Do I want him growing up thinking, okay, yo, man, there's a medical marijuana place right there. Oh, there's gonna be one right there. No, I mean, I want him to grow up like how I grew up. And I'm pretty sure all the parents and all the grandparents in here feel the same exact way. They want our children to grow up the way we grew up. I didn't grow up with a medical dispensary in here. I grew up with Mr. Mishler yelling at me in class all day long. You know, I grew up at the gas station, the party store. You know, I grew up, you wanted a pop, you wanted a soda, you wanted ice cream, you go to the corner party store. You go to Junior's party store if you wanted a bag of chips. That's what I grew up in. Yeah, the world's evolving and everything's evolving. We're getting the 21st century, we're getting to high-tech stuff. That's great, awesome. Fenton can have it, Aaron Blaine can have it. Holly doesn't need it. We're so close to everything that if we need it, we can drive 5 minutes for it. We don't need it in this town. And I mean, I'm just, like everybody said, we're urging you guys to really think about this stuff, because you get these dispensaries, what you're gonna do is you're gonna lose upgrowing families. You're gonna lose people that wanna call this place home. You know, I've worked in big cities, I drive around all day, I'm a CDL driver, okay? That's what I do for a living. I've been to Detroit, I've been to Flint, I've been to Port Huron, St. Clair Shores, I've been to these towns that have evolved way too quick. And you see them now, they've run down. No one's there anymore. And I don't want this to happen to this town. I mean, I'm third generation coming through Holly. Soon to be fourth generation coming through Holly. I just want you guys to just really think about this. And think about what you guys are going to lose if this comes into play. Like I said, medical marijuana, I'm all for it. That's great. Not the dispensary. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cullis?
George Cullis, 601 East Maple Street. I've got a few random thoughts that could also be viewed as perhaps some red flags, but before I go into that, I just want to say this. I think this has been a great evening. It's nice to see conversation on both sides of the fence, the debate goes on, the facts are here, we haven't heard anybody screaming, we haven't heard anybody calling names. That's a wonderful thing. And everybody in this room can applaud themselves, because it's nice to see that for a change. That being said, there are a couple of things that I noticed as the comments went through this evening. And the gentleman on Park Street brought up the fact that if it's medical marijuana, why aren't we seeing it coming through Rite Aid, CVS? Those would be wonderful dispensaries. They're already regulated, they're already here. It seems that one of the concerns I have is, if I'm not mistaken, we had a dispensary here once. The village manager may be able to touch base on how that went down. We heard an eloquent presentation from the gentleman from Lake Orion. That did a wonderful job on your presentation. You raised a couple of flags for me, though. You touched base on Colorado and California, and I wondered why you didn't touch base on, I'm sorry. I didn't. Go ahead. Well, you said it was already in Colorado, it was already in California, you said it was coming. I thought I heard you say that, perhaps I'm wrong. Okay. Well, the question I had was, and I know I mentioned this to a couple of people, about David Scott here. He's the township supervisor for Commerce. Commerce, under Tom Zoner a few years ago, allowed the medical marijuana dispensaries here. They have over 40 of them in Commerce Township.
43.
Well, that's over 40. But they have them there. And I said, you need to bring him here, because while we all talk about what could be, what should be, what might be, what might not be, this gentleman can stand here and tell you what is. And I know that there was a call placed in and he wasn't able to come here tonight because their township board is the same night as your meeting here is. So I would strongly recommend that you have another public hearing scheduled on another night when people that perhaps can't be here on Tuesdays might be able to be here. But to be able to listen to that gentleman talk about boots on the ground, actual experience with what's going on, would be advantageous. The other thought that I had when we spoke of the money that would come flowing into Holly as we jump on this bandwagon, for those of you that aren't old enough, I remember when they sold us the lottery, and how much money that was gonna add to our schools. There's laughing going on already, because as many of you remember, what they did was the lottery money came in the front door, and they took the appropriations out the back door. And the reason I bring that up is because the promises of money, it may never get here, because they can be awful clever with the way they regulate things up there, and it never makes it down to the lower. And for those of you that are in community service in Holly, we all know how hard it is to get attention here, because we are a small town. We don't have the numbers that gets the attention that the bigger areas go. So those are just some of the concerns that I wanted to bring up. And then the last thing was this medical marijuana with the cards thing. I was deeply concerned to hear that Jesse has a medical marijuana card. I didn't realize you were medically in trouble and you needed that card. But when Mr. Klempf brought up the fact that in Cloud they're having a fair, you can all go get your medical marijuana cards, that makes me wonder if we're not watering down the need for medical marijuana. It sounds more like an excuse just to get it out there. I've never heard of a fair to go to get that kind of stuff. That was a surprise to me. So those were just some of the thoughts that I picked up from the conversation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? What?
Let him go first, too.
John Love. You know, we're really carving a place for Holly on the map. We've got 3 dollar stores now. We have 3 auto parts stores. We've got a bike lane. And there's 3 buildings here that I stopped the demolition that are still here. What's the flavor of the town? Good question, I don't know what it is. You're gonna decide what the flavor of the town is. I talked to a person today and said, you know, up in Flint, they have these dispensaries. They have a big problem because they have a lot of people who want to get it. So they break in and into the buildings, so the businesses that are there have to fight off the people that come at night after hours. So this is another aspect of this that has to be considered and dealt with, and we're bringing a problem so our lawyer will be able to go to court for often. Make some more money. So there's what do we want the town to be? It's your decision because you're in.
Thank you. Any further comment? Chief?
Yes. Good evening.
Hi.
I'm Mike Story, the Chief of Police for the Village of Holly Police Department. I'm before you tonight just to offer up a little bit of information. I'm not going to keep you. I would suggest it would be my fervent hope that this council weighs into this very, very heavily. I will tell you that while I've been amassing data and listening to everything, that all these good folks have been talking about the pros and the cons, there are some inevitabilities here that I can't, as the chief law enforcement officer of this village, abide by. Just through a randomization, I use Colorado for an example. Everybody uses Colorado. While actual crime data relating to medical marijuana facilities is somewhat skewed, and I'm having to actually digest them, there are some things that are not. There's some mapping out there that shows high crime areas in certain communities, certain cities, certain geographical areas. You take those and right now they're colored. They're just color shaded in. But when you go to that same community on the websites to ask where the medical marijuana facilities have, the dispensaries, you can lay them right over, and it's an exact color almost in every instance. So my conclusion from that can be drawn to, well, the pros and cons. You hear that it's either going to cause a great deal of crime or it's going to cut down on the crime. The fact of the matter is the crime is there and it's not leaving. And I just would like this council to very, very deeply consider this. There are ramifications of it. They're running into issues in Colorado right now. They're actually lowering the tax on the marijuana. One of the underlying problems of this legalized marijuana is the black market. Marijuana has gone down from 1/8 of an ounce at $25, it's down to $8 in Washington. That's kind of undercutting. And when you look at it like that, why would I want to go and spend $30 at a medical marijuana place, at a dispensary, where I can just walk around the corner and get it for less because I'm not paying the taxes for it? It is creating a black market, whether anybody wants to acknowledge it or not. And the other aspect of this, I mean, sure, let's pile in, let's get 10 or 15 dispensaries here in the village. How many people in the village do you think have a medical marijuana card? Just an offhand guess.
They need to have a fair so they can get them up.
Be that as it may. But even when you look at this, I mean, some of the licensing of this for a grow operation is 150,000 plants. Anybody that's half decent horticultural is going to get a pound out of every plant. You heard Mr. Klempiter saying that you can get up to 90 joints out of an ounce. You know, that depends. But it's pretty close. It is pretty close. But when you take that and you multiply the poundage by just what one dispensary is, one dispensary, and there's actually only 185 or 186,000 people in Michigan that hold medical marijuana card. That was from 2016 data that I saw. That's enough, one dispensary, by what they put out in one crop. And that's 150, that's a rotating 150 as far as I can tell from looking at the law. You know, the law says that they can have that amount of plants. Well, as long as it doesn't have root ball, it's not a plant. So you've got your seedlings there, you can harvest half, bring in half, do whatever you want. It's a continual thing. But just with that one crop alone, that's enough for almost 3 joints per person per day that holds a card. You know, if you've got 5 or 6 of these shops operating out there and they're talking about the availability, I'm sorry, but you bring in dispensaries and that, and what are you going to attract into town? We've got 3 communities around us that say, no, we don't want anything to do with it. I don't know how many people hold medical marijuana cards there, but, and the other aspect is, in my research, in the state of Colorado, and I hate to put picking on Colorado, I've never been there, I'm sure it's lovely. The interesting thing about that is that they started out with their medical marijuana laws, the ML laws as they are there, and what happened was they went to the recreational aspect of it. Funny thing about that is when that happened, the only people that got licensed to dispense regulated, you know, for recreation activities was primarily the people that were already in place as medical marijuana dispensaries. In Colorado, you can do it for medical, you can do it for recreation, or you can do it for both. But the licensing, the amount of licensing for that regulation, it didn't change. So all I see this current law here for is to put the infrastructure in for November of 2018, hoping for a passage. Infrastructure's here. This is all we've got to do. We'll just palm it off to these guys and let them go at it. And again, there are just too many variables. There's not a lot of empirical data on this yet, as far as crime and anything like that. I pulled up the Denver PD stats. Now Denver's huge, admittedly, but on average they get about 340 incidences that they report of crimes. Those crimes are burglary and armed robbery. Is what they are. And we read about it and see it on the news here when you're talking about Detroit or some of these other islands. It's madly resource driven, and I guess I'm done talking right now. I still have a lot of research to do because I'm sure that this is going to continue, and I think it's way too early for us to jump into something like that, and we still don't know what Mr. Sessions is going to do in Washington. I'm just saying that I don't think that we should be jumping or putting the cart before the horse, especially for the dubious amount of money that we may or may not receive. I don't see a windfall. And I don't see it being where we're gonna get our bang for our buck. I'm done. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, Chief. Do we have any other public comment?